I'm James Rule. Welcome to the Lonely Leader podcast, where we help existing and aspiring leaders find clarity, build resilience, drive performance, and enhance fulfillment. Today, we're talking about the leadership essential of belief. Believe you can, and you're halfway there. Fabulous quote from Theodore Roosevelt that frames this essential perfectly. As with all the other Leadership Essential series episodes that you can find in the back catalogue, I bring these to life because I believe they are essential components of your leadership DNA. I try and embrace them in my own leadership style and have seen the relevance and importance from my leadership journey as a CEO. And more importantly, I see these consistently being embodied and displayed by the high-performing leaders I get to work with, meet, coach, mentor, and just learn from and associate with. So naturally, when I see the importance of these traits, I feel duty-bound to bring those back to you through the podcast to allow you to reflect and consider how you might integrate those into your own leadership style. And if you haven't listened to the episode around the leadership essential of clarity, I'll make sure there's a link to it in the show notes, because I think that's probably a fundamental start point for everybody. We must have clarity of where we are, where we want to get to, and how we're going to get there. We must have that vision. But sitting right behind that is this essential of belief. You have to believe that you can get there. You have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in the people around you. And you have to believe that you have the skills, the ability to get there. And even if you don't currently have the full requisite of skills and ability, you need to believe that you can get them, acquire them to ensure you will get to that destination. It really frustrates me and indeed saddens me when people play small. They don't really set goals that stretch them, that inspire them to take action, because of that fear of failure. Well, I don't really believe I can get there, so I'd like to do this, but I'm not really going to go for it. Well, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If we don't have clarity of where we're going and we don't believe in ourselves to get there, well, guess what? We're not going to get there. We're going to drift, and then we're going to end up living a life of regret when we look back and go, where have all the years, where have all the decades gone? Why haven't I got to where I wanted to get to? Well, unfortunately, it could be due to a lack of belief. So let's avoid that regret. I want you to embrace everything we talk about, not just in this episode, but every episode, around how it can impact your professional role, but equally your personal life. Those of you that have listened to a lot of my episodes will know that I'm a huge advocate of blending everything together into one holistic overview. There's no such thing as work-life balance. It's work-life integration. We have to find a way to take all the core component elements of your life, being a son, a daughter, perhaps a brother or a sister, being a parent, a partner, a friend, a leader, a professional, and blend that together to get the highest level of performance and the highest level of fulfillment that you can possibly achieve. So let's dial back into this core essential of belief. Belief, without a doubt, is contagious. Think about your own personal experiences. Think of those leaders that have inspired you. Often, it's that belief and confidence that we can get where we need to get to, and that inspires you to take action. Their belief rubs off on you. And conversely, I'm sure you can think of leaders and colleagues that you've worked with who have a glass is always half empty mentality, don't have a high level of belief, and their negativity, their fear can also be contagious and can stall the momentum and the energy of those that they are leading and those that they are working alongside. A lot of my work anchors around resilience, developing resilience in individuals, developing resilience in teams. And a core component of that is belief, because adversity will come. I am not a doom mongerer. I am not an overtly negative person, but I am realistic, and I am very aware from my own personal experiences and those that I coach that the more senior your role becomes, the higher likelihood of challenge and adversity that you have to process and deal with. I'd love to say that isn't the case, but how many of us can hand on heart say we go week to week, month to month, quarter to quarter, just sailing seamlessly through our jobs, through our lives with no adversity? It's unheard of. So belief is so important to give us resilience, that inner steel, that inner belief to say, this is difficult, but I believe I can find a way through. I believe I can focus in on the controllables, I can take action, and I can advance through and out the other side of this adversity. That is really important. You can't just magically make yourself resilient. There are core components, key building blocks, and belief is absolutely central to those blocks. Whenever I'm talking about an essential, I like to try and find globally recognized individuals, particularly in the sporting, business, military sector, that help bring it to life. And when I think of sport, I can think of no better fit when talking about belief than the former world champion boxer Muhammad Ali. He had a series of phrases that captured global attention and won the hearts and minds of his fans. And one of them was, I am the greatest. Now, that was a phrase he began to utilize long before he truly was on top of the world in terms of his boxing acumen. He was a young man in his early 20s coming up against huge physical specimens and phenomenally competent boxers such as Sonny Liston, George Foreman, but he constantly used that phrase. Now, people could have dismissed it. I'm sure plenty of people did at the time as excessive bravado, arrogance. But I think he was really anchoring in his belief. He was reminding himself, I've got the ability. I can do this. I am the greatest. So I'm not saying necessarily you're going to start pounding your chest and rolling out those sort of sound bites in your staff meetings and in your family home. But there is a core principle here. His belief was unwavering. And lo and behold, he manifested everything he talked about. He became the greatest boxer, arguably, in the history of the sport. In a military context, and you look back at World War II, General George Patton stands out. He was a man who really embodied the power of belief. So often, the Allied troops were exhausted, demoralized even, and his presence, his narrative, his communication style, it exuded a belief. He had a famous quote that courage is fear holding on a minute longer. And at the heart of that statement, at the heart of that courage is belief. Belief that holding the line, that digging a little bit deeper can make all the difference. And thankfully, very few of us are now involved in military conflict. But that power of inspiration and that belief that what I do matters and that my effort and going that extra yard truly makes a difference is relevant to every single leader listening to this podcast. You want your people feeling valued. You want them believing in the direction of travel, and you want them believing that them doing the very best they can makes a difference. And it's a self-manifestation. When they believe that, they perform, and indeed the outcome is positive because they had the belief which galvanized them to take action. Last but not least, Walt Disney. Now, this is an example I've recently shared with my daughters. We had the privilege of being able to go to Disney last summer. And obviously, you see the grandeur of the place. You see the joy that it brings to so many people. But the backstory has always fascinated me. Walt Disney was fired from his job at a newspaper for lacking imagination, which is the ultimate irony when you look at what Disney has become. Another statistic that really blew my mind when I first heard it was that Walt Disney had gone bankrupt trying to bring the Disney concept to life. And he had been rejected by no less than 300 different banks and financial institutions as he presented his vision. Just let that number settle in for a minute. If any of us get rejection just once on a business idea, a proposal, a strategic step on something at work, we get one rejection, maybe two. That's enough to really ding our confidence. Imagine getting 300 rejections. how that would feel to step forward, to prepare, to polish up your presentation, to get dressed, to go to that meeting, and then no thank you. Again and again and again. 300 times. So I don't think there are many examples that can better illustrate the power of belief, because now we look at what Disney's become, the theme parks, the films, the streaming apps, the associated merchandise, etc., etc. It is a truly global behemoth that brings joy and happiness to so many people, but it needed the founder. It needed Walt Disney's belief that he knew where he wanted to be, he had the ability to get there, and he would keep taking action and moving through that rejection. Now, I sincerely hope to get to where you need to be, you don't have to take 300 rejections, but we can certainly take a handful, can't we? Because there's a great case study, and I think there's always power in looking at those who have walked the path ahead of us, that persistence, belief, action, it will allow us to get to the destination we cherish and the vision that we dearly want to realize. As I was preparing for this podcast, I thought about bringing some of my own personal experiences to the fore. Now, when I'm coaching with individuals or mentoring, I'm very, very open. I'm very authentic. I share the highs, the lows of my life and my career to really bring my teachings to life. Without that deeper level of rapport, I sometimes fear sharing anecdotes and stories on the podcast for fear of it sounding too bombastic or too arrogant as a, look at me and look at what I've done. But hopefully you feel the sincerity in my voice as I talk about this. And I just wanted to bring 2 or 3 very personal examples to life on belief. So as a young man, and it's relevant now as I operate as a dad, and I think back of my own journeys, and you go into the dusty archives of your mind to bring forward insights and teachings to help you be a better parent. But I can dearly remember my passion for the sport of rugby. And when I was young, in the rugby union world, it wasn't a career. It was an amateur sport, but there were a lot of international games broadcast on the television. I loved to watch England play, and I was engrossed in watching that. I had the posters of England stars on my bedroom wall, and I used to see them in that pristine white shirt and the English rose and singing the national anthem and think, wow, that just looks amazing. I would love to do that. Now, at that particular time in my school, they graded the rugby teams. There was the A team, the best, the B team, second best, C team, pretty much the worst. And I was in the C team. So I had a vision that I wanted to play for England. And I can remember talking to some friends and them laughing, saying, well, you're a C team rugby player. Now, I was a 10, 11-year-old boy there, and I eventually realized that dream and played for my country at under 21 level. I pulled on that white shirt, I looked down at that red rose, and I was able to sing the national anthem. And that is a memory that I will always cherish. I'm not for 1 second saying I'm the world's greatest rugby player, because quite evidently I am not. But it meant a lot to me that it was over a decade between setting that aspiration and being able to realize it. And there was a lot of hard work along the way. But I always believed that there was a road to get there if I took action. And that was a really important lesson to me at a young age about the power of belief, the power of having a vision, and the power of taking consistent action to get there. Another example was when I stepped out of playing professional rugby union and moved into the sports administration world. I was working for my hometown rugby team, and I aspired to become chief executive. Now, I was still in my mid-20s. That was not a generally well-trodden path. Normally, to become a chief executive, you were a lot older, but I set my stall out. I worked hard. I had a belief. I had a vision, and I ultimately realized that in my late 20s. So these episodes have helped reinforce my belief in the power of belief, and why, as with everything I talk about on the podcast and everything I talk about as a coach, it's born out of lived life experience. Because to be truly authentic with people and to really deliver ideas and concepts with absolute sincerity, you have to have experienced and believe in it yourself. And so these examples tie it together and hopefully give you the confidence of why I'm so passionate about it. And last but not least, there was always a desire inside me to have my own business. As a CEO, one of the things that I found most rewarding, if not the most rewarding, was developing and supporting my people, supporting their growth and development at whatever level of the staffing organisation. And some of my dearest friendships have been born out of those professional relationships. So there was a fear of stepping out of that traditional safe environment of paid employed work and stepping into that new and unknown and uncertain world of having your own business and trying to grow and develop it. But I had a belief that that was where my real fulfillment would lie, and I had a belief that I could do it. And here we are now at the time of recording this podcast. The Lonely Leader has just celebrated its 6-year anniversary. So whatever you're sitting thinking internally about what you may or may not able to do, what you may or may not desire to achieve, really lean into that belief. Believe in yourself and recognize that there are steps you can take to make it happen. So that's the perfect juncture to dive into the actionable takeaways. If this is the first time you've listened to the podcast, you'll find in all of them that I try and wrap the episode up with a series of actions that you can take immediately today to start enhancing this particular trait or skill set. And today we're talking about belief. So let's dive into them. Tip number 1, start with self-belief. Everything starts with you. Confidence starts with you. You've got to back your ability to get better. Even if you don't have the skill, the knowledge at the moment, find out how you can get it. Who do you need to speak to? What course do you need to do? There is a way. Believe you can get better, because that removes the fundamental barrier to achieving what you want to achieve. Skill and knowledge gap can be closed. Don't let that be the barrier. Then ask yourself, do I believe in my ability to get better? Yes, no, of course you do. So do I believe, therefore, that I can set a destination and work towards it? It's absolutely sacrosanct to get this first step right, and it is contagious, as we've said, particularly when you're thinking in your professional role. When you have self-belief, it's contagious and other people will follow you. Tip number 2, visualize success. See what you want to achieve. Feel the emotion of achieving it. Feel the excitement of it. Who will you call at that point of achievement? See yourself having that conversation. Now, visualization may be completely alien to you, and in fact, I'm going to do an episode on that in the future, because I think it is such an essential component of fueling and maintaining your belief, and it is something that I see time and again being utilized in the elite performers of military and the sporting world, but it's something that's often neglected or never even been tried by the vast majority of high performers within industry. So we'll circle back and do a bit of a deeper dive into visualization in a future episode. Tip number 3, communicate with conviction. We said on tip number 1, you need self-belief. Then we need to let other people see and feel that belief. That can come through in the words you use, in the communication you deliver in meetings, in your one-to-one sessions, your group meetings, in your emails, in your presentations. It's got to ooze out of every part of what you do so that people can see it, they can feel it, and truly connect with it and become inspired by it to embrace their own level of belief and take the action necessary to move everything forward. Tip number 4, back your people. Sometimes to really drive belief, you've got to believe in others before they really believe in themselves. This is something a lot of sporting coaches and established leaders will relate to. You can see talent, you can see potential in people sometimes before they can even see it. My parents are retired teachers and they talk a lot about this. They can see potential in young boys and girls within the classroom, within the sporting arenas, and part of their job is to raise their aspiration levels, to open their mind to the potential they have and encourage them to find that belief and start taking the actions to really realize their potential. And it's the same for you in your professional role. It might be with you as a parent, within your friendship group. We all need that friend, leader, colleague to help open our mind to the potential we have and to help enhance that level of belief. So go out there and back your people. Tip number 5, reframe setbacks. It's a theme we talk about in so many episodes. How many of us go on a linear journey through life that's just a straight upward line? Everything gets better and better, easier and easier, success after success after success. It's whether you're talking about sport, life, relationships, profession. None of us do that. None of us. There are highs and lows. There are peaks and troughs along the way. What's important is we don't allow the setbacks to derail our belief. Let's go back to Walt Disney. 300 rejections. If he'd have allowed that to derail his belief, we wouldn't have had Disney, we wouldn't have Disney World, we wouldn't have had any of that. And it's the same for each and every one of us. When I talk about wanting to pull on that England shirt for the first time, were there setbacks along the way? Of course there were. Were there times when I thought this is never going to happen? Absolutely. Were there challenges and setbacks in stepping out and launching my own business? 100%. I launched my business back in 2019 as the global pandemic struck and all face-to-face interactions ceased. So that first year was as difficult as could possibly be. I went from having a full calendar to an empty calendar. So in terms of setbacks, we all have them. We all will experience them, but we must step back from them, take the learnings, because there's always learnings in adversity. What do we need to do differently in the future? What do we need to avoid doing again? And see that negative as a positive springboard, a stepping stone to keep moving forward, rather than something we wallow in, get stuck in, woe is me, with a victim mentality of I can't believe this has happened. It's happened. What can I learn? What do I avoid doing in the future? What do I tweak and enhance to embed that learning? And let's go. Let's keep taking action. Let's move forward. Let's not lose sight of where we're going. Let's retain our belief and let's take steps towards that destination. And my final tip is model resilience by reflecting on your journey. I'm sure there are examples that will come to mind where you can recall being tested, where you thought, I'm not sure if I can overcome this particular hurdle professionally or personally, and lo and behold, you did. Take strength from that. Use that to fuel your belief the next time you're challenged in any facet of your life to say, I've been in these sort of scenarios before. What I must hold on to is my belief, my resilience, because with that, I can find the courage to keep taking action. And the only way through adversity is momentum, and I must take action to maintain and enhance that momentum. But we've all got those examples. Even if you say at first thought, no, I haven't, you have. Go back, think academically, career, relationships, family, dynamics, wherever it may be, there will be a moment in time where there was adversity and you held the line and you came out the other side. It was your belief that helped you do it. Take strength from those recollections and use that to frame the action you need to take next time adversity comes calling. So I hope this episode has reminded you of the power of belief and encouraged you to look within. As I said at the start of the episode, take that moment and those reflections for clarity. Where are you? Where do you want to get to? How are you going to get there? It's a big part of my work. And if you think that I can help you shape that and really gain that clarity, then please do get in touch. Once you've got that, have the belief. Have the belief that you can get there and make it happen. And I'll leave you with a quote from Michael Jordan, the NBA legend, which reads, "Some people want it to happen. Some wish it would happen. Others make it happen." And for me, take strength from that. It empowers the notion of belief. Make it happen. Find that belief, hold on to it, take action, and make whatever it is you wish to achieve professionally and personally happen. I wish you the very best of luck. Thanks for listening to the Lonely Leader podcast. I'd be very grateful if you could share and follow if the content resonates. And if you're looking for additional free resource to support your continued growth and development, then please do check out our social media and website details in the show notes. Remember, quality leadership on the outside must always start within.